Medieval Europe, a time when your neighbor could be accused of witchcraft for owning a cat, and you could be sentenced to death for stealing a loaf of bread. Executions were the spectator sport before Netflix, and let me tell you, they didn't skimp on creativity. The Middle Ages were like one long episode of how not to die in the most horrific yet absurdly entertaining ways. So grab your favorite goblet of mead, sit back, and enjoy this delightful romp through some of the weirdest, cruelest, and downright ridiculous ways people were sent to meet their maker back in ye old days. Let's start with a classic, the breaking wheel, because clearly killing someone in one fell swoop would just be too humane. No, the breaking wheel was a method for those who enjoyed their executions, long and dramatic, like a soap opera, but with more shattered bones. Victims were tied to a large wooden wheel, think medieval Ferris wheel, but with zero fun and a lot more agony. The executioner would then smash their limbs with a hammer, breaking bones. Once adequately mangled, they'd either be left to die on the wheel or mercifully finished off with a blow to the chest or head. Drawing and quartering, a renaissance for horses. This method was reserved for those who really ticked off the king. First, they'd draw you, dragging your body through the streets behind a horse. I know, sounds artsy, but it was more about public humiliation. Then came the quartering, where your limbs were tied to 4 horses who were politely encouraged, read whipped, to run in opposite directions. The result? You ended up looking like a human jigsaw puzzle no one wanted to finish. Bonus points for creativity, though. Imagine the townsfolk placing bets on which horse would tear off which limb first. Who needs football when you've got this? The brazen bull, getting steamed like an unfortunate BBQ. Greek in origin but widely loved in medieval Europe, the brazen bull was a hollow brass statue where the victim was locked inside and a fire was lit underneath. As they roasted inside, their screams would echo through the bull's mouthpiece, transforming into, wait for it, bull-like sounds. Because why just burn someone alive when you can also create a screaming bovine symphony for the crowd? Genius. Clearly, medieval Europe had a talent for turning torture into performance art. The Iron Maiden, a bear hug you won't survive. No, not the heavy metal band, though they'd approve of the name. The Iron Maiden was an iron coffin lined with spikes. When closed, the spikes would puncture the victim in just the right places to keep them alive long enough to really regret their choices. Some historians think this one was more myth than reality, but the fact that someone even thought it up is disturbing enough. I mean, who sits down and says, "You know what we need? A spiky coffin to gently kill people." Hanged, drawn and quartered, because one death wasn't enough. Medieval multitasking at its finest. First, the condemned was hanged, but not killed, just dangled until nearly dead. Then came the drawing, intestines pulled out, but wait, there's more. They'd then be quartered, cut into pieces for maximum impact. The cherry on top, their body parts were sent to different locations as medieval Europe's version of a wish you were here postcard. Truly passive-aggressive messaging at its finest, boiling to death. Soup's on. Boiling someone to death was as practical as it was horrifying. Whether in oil or water, they liked to mix it up, the accused, often poisoners because irony, would slowly cook in a giant cauldron. The goal? Maximum suffering. Clearly the medieval justice system was also big on slow cooking techniques. I guess this is where Gordon Ramsay's rage got its medieval roots. Rat torture, when regular rats aren't enough. What's more civilized than strapping a cage of hungry rats to someone's stomach and watching them gnaw their way through? Rat torture was basically turning you into a human buffet. Desperate to escape, the rats would chew through your belly like medieval pest control with extra flair. Because why just kill someone when you can traumatize them and the audience? The saw, medieval limbo but deadlier. Nothing says fun execution like being sawed in half, starting from the groin and working upwards. Suspended upside down to keep the victim conscious longer, it's medieval Europe's take on a piñata, but with fewer sweets and way more trauma. Maybe they should have stuck to limbo contests. So next time you're having a rough day, just remember, at least you're not being boiled alive, quartered by horses, or used as a rat buffet. The Middle Ages were basically one long horror movie, but thankfully we've moved on from public executions as primetime entertainment. Mostly. Thanks for watching.